I'm Muqtedar Khan, and today I'm going to talk to you about Prime Minister Meloni of Italy's visit, the ongoing visit to Beijing in China. Is she trying to undermine EU's policy of de-risking and reducing Chinese exports to Europe? Is she trying to undermine the United States' security policy of pressuring China to reduce its support for Russia in Russia's war against Ukraine? Is Italy trying to find a path for itself which is independent of both the United States and EU in this trip to China? Meloni says she wants to mend relations with Xi. What does that mean? Watch Khanversations to get a sense of what's going on. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, press the bell icon, and share this video with everybody. Welcome to Khanversations. I'm Muqtedar Khan, your host, and I'm today going to talk to you about the Italian Prime Minister Meloni's visit to Beijing. She's there on a 5-day tour. She's going to meet Xi Jinping, and she's also going to meet Li, the number 2 in China. And ostensibly, the trip is to achieve 2 or 3 goals. Number 1 is to essentially mend relations with China. There has been a lot of tension between European countries and China, and especially between Italy and China, since Italy withdrew from the Belt and Road Initiative. In 2018, Italy had joined the Belt and Road Initiative of China. It was a prize achievement for China because this was the first G7 country and also the only G7 country to become part of the Belt and Road Initiative. But after a lot of pressure from G7 countries, especially the United States, and of course, that was one of the campaign promises of Meloni when she ran for Prime Minister of Italy, that she would withdraw from the Belt and Road Initiative. Italy finally withdrew from the Belt and Road Initiative, and this really created a lot of tension between Italy and China. China is a major trading partner, and so the argument that Italy was making was that, look, France has a bigger trade relationship with China without becoming part of Belt and Road Initiative. So Italy need not become part of the BRI in order to have better trade relations with China. And over the years, what the BRI had done was to increase Chinese exports to Italy and increase the trade deficit without any significant increase in Italian exports to China. So in that sense, many Italians felt that it was not a win-win situation. It was only a win for China, but not for Italy. So there have been some tensions between China and Italy over this issue, besides the tariff and investigations that the European Union is conducting on China's exports to Europe, and already the higher customs that are being imposed on Chinese electric cars that will be imported into Europe. So she's going there to mend fences with China. But the second goal apparently is to ask China to help the West end the war in Russia's invasion with Ukraine. I don't understand why China would listen to Meloni and disconnect with Russia. For China, the Russia-Ukraine war is a bonanza, not only in terms of highly discounted oil. Its trade with Russia has increased to nearly $250 billion. It is 3 or 4 times more than the trade with Italy. And more importantly, China is getting a very powerful neighbor as a strategic partner / you could also say a sidekick. So for China, this is a big win, regardless of what happens in Ukraine, whether Russia wins the war or Russia loses the war. For China, this is a way to dominate its much bigger, much powerful neighbor. But now So I think this whole talk about pressuring China to stop helping Russia in the war against Ukraine is Meloni's way of protecting herself from American criticism and other European countries criticizing it for reaching out to China. See, all of these countries have done that. Just last year, Macron went to China in a big way. In the same way, the way Meloni went, not just as a president, but with a lot of CEOs of large companies. Macron did the same thing. Schulz, the German chancellor, did the same thing. Orban went recently. So it's one after the other. European leaders are going on pilgrimage to Beijing. And so she's telling this basically for those who are critical of China's role in the Russia-Ukraine war, especially the United States. So she's saying, I'm going there to do this also. But the third and the most important reason why, and I think this is the most important reason why she's going to China, is to attract investments. She wants China to invest in Italy. And that's why car manufacturers and other heavy industry CEOs are also on this trip with her. They are going to attract investments more than trade. They know that the moment they eliminate any trade barriers, etc., Chinese exports to Italy will just shoot up, and there will not be a similar rise in Italian exports to China. But she wants investments. That is why she is going there. So in that sense, she's trying to it's a very tricky dance that she has to dance. So, for example, she wants to bring Chinese investments to Italy and open the door into the European Union. So, for example, if BYD opens a factory in Italy, like it has one in Hungary, then it will have factories inside European Union, and it can go around the customs and tariffs that EU is imposing, because those cars will be manufactured inside Italy, and they will just be exported. Even if they just manufacture solar cells or other things, the Chinese will have an inside the EU. This will completely undermine the so-called de-risking strategy that Brussels or EU is trying to push. So while Italy is part of EU, it is kind of sabotaging EU's economic policy and sabotaging NATO's security policy by reaching out to China, and that is in a desperate need to protect. European economies, by and large, across the board, are not doing well, and I don't think they're going to do well for a long time. On top of that, they have lots of internal issues which are going to lead to political upheavals like you saw in France last month. So she's there basically to increase trade and mend fences with China, but more importantly, to attract Chinese investment. So the question that I want to raise in this is, why not India? Why not Japan? Why didn't she go to these two countries first? And why is she going to China? So if you look at this chart, these are China's exports to Italy in 2023. So even though there has been a sudden decline from 2022 to 2023 because of geopolitics. So in this chart, the blue bar graph is China's exports to Italy, and the smaller gray graph that you see is India's exports to Italy, and that's what I'm trying to compare here. And you can see that China is exporting $45 billion worth of stuff to Italy, and a lot of it is industrial, electronics, computers, etc. And India is exporting just 8 billion. So roughly 5.5 or more than that, close to 9 times more China is exporting to Italy. But if you look at the reverse, which is Italian exports to China, they're just $20 billion. They're less than half. And China's exports to Italy's exports to China is just less than half, which is about $20 billion, $21 billion. And their exports to India are less, which is 5.6. And India-Italy trade has declined from 2022 to 2023, and the same with China too. So because China is such a major partner, so the advantage that China has over Japan and US is not just the sheer volume of the trade, but all these deficits that it enjoys gives it a lot of foreign currency reserves like dollars and euros, and it can park those as investments. So I think China's biggest attraction is not the trade part as much as its capacity to invest in Europe. So in the past, European and Western countries were more interested in investing in China for cheap manufacturing. Now they want China to invest in Europe so that they can create jobs and have higher quality manufacturing in their own countries, because China is now clearly way ahead of Europe in most areas of especially green technology. This is where I think India is going to have trouble competing. India's exports at the moment in Italy are in millions, not billions. So I think if you look at the trading partners, these are the top 10 trading partners of Italy in 2023. So the number one, I mean, European Union is a collective of some of the European countries that are listed here. So the biggest trading partner is Germany with about 160, and then France, then United States, and China is in number 4th place. And this is despite all the de-risking and de-linking strategies and the tariffs the Europeans have imposed. And I think if the tariffs were lifted, China will very quickly surpass the United States and become a bigger trading partner. It will take some catching up with regards to Germany, but it will easily overtake the US and France if there are no barriers and all this political rhetoric against China. If you notice, India is not there in the top 10 of Italy's trading partners. In fact, the 10th place is by United Kingdom, whose total trade was $35 billion. These are dollars, not euros. And that is nearly 3 times the total trade between India and Italy. So in that sense, while India is still rising as a big economy, and the Indian market is very attractive, the real focus still is China for Europeans who are now stuck between China and the US. So they are trying to catch up with the US. Germany is one of the richest countries. Europe, its per capita is around $55,000 or $54,000. The US is $80,000. At the rate, in another 5 to 6 years, the US will be double of Germany in terms of per capita income. So the Europeans realize that they're falling behind both from China and the US. And so they also need to somehow trade with both and also find alternative markets for them, because they are also losing out to China in the global south, and also now to India in the global south, because some of the things that Italy exports to China and other parts of the world is pharmaceutical, and India is a rising power when it comes to pharmaceutical exports, especially in the global south. So it's very interesting. We'll see what happens as a result of this. We'll also see what reaction comes from Washington. Every day, I think people in Washington, D.C. are going to have a heart attack after heart attack. First they see Orban go there and then go and meet with Donald Trump, and then Netanyahu goes and meets with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Just last year, Macron went to Beijing. Prime Minister Modi went to Russia, and then again, and now Meloni is going to Beijing. So in that sense, the United States' efforts to isolate China and Russia are not working, even with regards to their partners. In fact, one of the conversations that I'm going to record tomorrow is to show how the British, the long-time ally and the mother of America, is essentially veering away from the US when it comes to key foreign policy issues. But that will come tomorrow. So I hope you found this conversation interesting and, as usual, thought-provoking. So subscribe to Khanversations, like this video, press the bell icon, and share this video with your friends and neighbors.